What's up, and welcome back to another episode of the Still Curtain Podcast. I'm your host, Tommy Jaggi, editor of StillCurtain.com. And joining me, as always, is Still Curtain contributor Shayne Kubas. We are coming off of an ugly Week 8 Sunday Night Football loss against the Green Bay Packers. Shayne at halftime was looking optimistic. Really blew it in the second half. 28 points allowed. We're going to talk about that game. We're going to talk about the Kyle Duggar trade the Steelers recently made. What else will this team do at the trade deadline? Mike Tomlin made it very clear which direction they want to go. I think you probably already know if you listen to this show, but we will dissect that and talk about what the Steelers should do at the deadline. Shayne, we're going to discuss why the Steelers are in huge trouble right now with the games they have coming up, with the way their performance has been so far this season. It's been really rough. And then we're going to give our game predictions for Week 9, Steelers versus the Indianapolis Colts, and talk about the things that we could be a little bit concerned about in this game. Shayne, let me kick it over to you. Overall thoughts on the Steelers' 35-25 loss against the Packers?
This is one that, if you have been a Steelers fan for a very long time, has got to be one of the tougher losses that you've witnessed, because not just the fact that they lost at home with an opportunity to kind of give their new starting quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, one of his signature wins of his career, really, getting that 32nd team, knocked off as far as teams that he's beat in his career. Probably his only chance to do so as well, which, unfortunate for him.
Yeah.
But how they lost and the manner in which they lost specifically is what really makes this one so disappointing, because the offense finally, for the most part, I know they had like a late touchdown that was like, you could argue whether that was garbage time or not, but the offense finally looks like an offense that, with the defense that we've had over the past half decade or so, would be good enough to make this team actually a threat in the playoffs potentially. And now, of course, because they had to remain consistent just in a different way, now it's the defense that cannot do anything right, it seems like. And for that to happen at home against an offense that, as good as it is, does have a quarterback that traditionally in his career has been a little bit up and down and is susceptible to turnovers, for him to play by far the best game of his career in terms of just like playing clean football and hitting the guys he needs to hit, all that good stuff, it's just really a tough pill to swallow.
It really is. And you could see Rodgers' frustration throughout that game. And dude was mad. He was mad.
He should
and
be.
I understand why. I mean,
Yeah.
This defense has been such a letdown. We're going to get there. But over the last 2 weeks, Shayne, 924 yards allowed, 68 points allowed, and 49 first downs allowed. And to put that into perspective, the Steelers only had 47 completions over the past 2 weeks. They've allowed more first downs to their opposing team than the Steelers have had completions during that span. All right, let's talk about the injuries that happened during this game.
Yeah.
Some significant, others kind of dodged a bullet there a little bit. Deshaun Elliott is headed to IR with a knee injury. Now, it could have been worse. It's a hyperextension, and it looked bad on film.
It did. It could have been worse.
I was hopeful that it was a hyperextension because you saw the leg kind of buckle backwards, but I mean, you never know. You could always dealing with ligaments and stuff there. Had that been an ACL, obviously that was the end of his season. I mean, Elliott's already dealt with an MCL sprain earlier in the year when he was, again, rolled up on awkwardly. Yeah. Tomlin is listing him as week to week. He did land on IR, though, so he's going to miss at least 4 games with this. And obviously, in his absence, the Steelers went out and traded for Kyle Duggar, who we'll talk about here in just a second. The other injuries, Isaac Seumalo suffered a pectoral strain. Unfortunately, that's all it was, because those tears can be finicky and that can cost you a season. We saw in 2022, TJ Watt missed from the injury happened in week 1. He missed all the way through week 10 before he saw the field again, and he was not the same late in the season before following up with a good year in 2023. Cam Hayward missed a full season after 7 games, missed the rest of the year with a pec tear back in 2017, I want to say it was.
I think that was.
So fortunately, it looks like there's a chance Seumalo can play this week even. Obviously, we record this podcast before the injury reports come out, so keep an eye on that. The big one, at least in terms of significance, severity of the injury, is Daniel Ekuale, who did, in fact, suffer an ACL tear. He was a part-time player. I think he played roughly 14% of the defensive snaps for the Steelers. Along that defensive line rotation, played some snaps at nose tackle there behind Keanu Benton. He is done for the year, in fact, and so the Steelers will look to replace him on that defense, or the few snaps that he had per game are going to go to somebody else now. It looks like maybe Y.A. Black could get another look there. He was taking some of those snaps at nose tackle when Aquala got injured against the Packers. Shayne, what do you make of these injuries overall and the significance of them?
The fact that the biggest injury in terms of impact is to the position that's maybe caused this team the most problems this year, safety position. Not great, because Deshaun Elliott was the only guy kind of playing even at a passable level, especially in coverage. And we know what he can do as a run defender for the most part. So losing him is really tough. Hopefully he does just miss the 4 weeks minimum that he's going to have to miss. And obviously there's a reason why they trade for Kyle Duggar. And maybe they would have done something like that anyway. But him going down certainly makes that decision pretty easy for them. Ciamalo, because it's a strain and it seems like he has a chance to play this week, I'm hopeful he maybe misses this week is probably the best thing for him and for them, but that he's okay moving forward. And then Quali, it's tough because, again, he doesn't play a ton, but he has been pretty good when he's played. I think he's been totally fine. And they certainly could use more players there than less players, especially with the way the run defense has played at times. So.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, specifically for Elliott, who's had a rough, just a rough career overall in terms of injuries. Yeah. Had the best season of his career last year with the Steelers, was awesome.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Got off to a slow start because of the MCL sprain, and now the hyperextension. So he's out at least another 4 weeks, and we'll see when he comes back, if he comes back for the Steelers during the regular season. All right, let's talk about the updated AFC North standings here, Shayne. And whoo, this division reeks. It reeks. And the Steelers are reaping the benefits of it. Yeah. I mean, you talk about just being handed an absolute gift with Joe Burrow out until mid-December, if the Bengals even bring him back, if he's worth bringing back at that point. Lamar Jackson missing multiple games. I mean, the Steelers are sitting atop the division at 4-3. The Bengals are at 3-5, squandering an opportunity to the New York Football Jets, who are now 1-7. Thanks to the
Justin
Bengals.
Fields, by the way.
I mean, the Steelers almost lost them too, so we don't really have much room to talk.
No.
And then the Baltimore Ravens sitting at 2-5, and the Browns at 2-6. Shayne, we're about at the halfway point here. What do you think? Like, give me a season prediction here. Like, for some reason, I still feel like the Ravens floating around at 2-5. Like, I still feel like they're going to get there, and it's going to be the most Mike Tomlin season ever, and it's going to come down to week 17. And or do you think the Steelers are going to wrap this up before then?
I have no faith that they can win this division at this point. I mean, how could you? Like, listen, I'm not saying the Bears were suddenly like great when they won the 4 games in a row. It was still very shaky, and you saw what happened to them against the Snoop Huntley led Ravens, which certainly not great if you're a Bears fan. It's not a great loss to take. Also, wish the Bears could have taken care of the Ravens. That would have helped us a lot right now. But the Ravens play nobody. They don't play anyone else the rest of the year. Yeah. Like, you look at their schedule, you find me one game where you're like, oh, it's definitely an L for them with Lamar back, especially if he's healthy. I don't think it exists. And that's just not good because, are they going to win every game down the stretch? Probably not. Are they going to win maybe 8 of them, 7 of them? Probably. And that might be all they need to do with the way the Steelers are playing right now and who they're about to play over the next few weeks. Like, they could very easily find themselves barely in first place within the next couple weeks. Like, that's kind of what they're staring down. And the fact that that's the case when we talked to just a couple weeks ago when this team was 4-1, the Bengals didn't look any good. The Ravens are certainly bad. We knew the Browns weren't a threat anyway. Everything is on the table now. Like, they could still pull this out with 9 or 10 wins. It depends on how the Ravens and Bengals play. But the fact that we're even talking about this 2 weeks after where they're at is just devastating.
I mean, Shayne, this season's been handed to Pittsburgh
it literally
on a
has
silver platter, and they're finding a way to mess it up. That's the problem. Is it's I don't want to be Debbie Downer here, but man, we gotta be honest about the state of the team. It's rough right now. Like, they're losing by a wide margin when the few times they play a respectable opponent. You can go back to the game against the Patriots. I mean, it took every bit of 5 takeaways to pull that win off.
Still almost lost.
They were smashed in every statistical category in that game, and they needed 5 takeaways to do it. So we will evaluate from here. But right now, it's like everybody else in the AFC North has crapped the bed, and it's the Steelers. What are you going to do with this? Go ahead, Shane. You got something for us?
Yeah, we got a couple comments here from Mr. Tommy. Funny name here. I like that. I got 8 and 9 remaining losses: Colts, Chargers, Bengals, Bills, Lions, and one. Yeah, I mean, you hope you could beat the Bengals the second time around at home, and maybe you're 9 and 8 then instead. But I really think, and you mentioned it, I think the Week 18 game against the Ravens, that's going to decide who wins this division. I would not be shocked if those two go into that game with the same record, or maybe there's a tiebreaker situation where whoever wins that one just wins the division outright. Whatever it is, like, I would not be shocked if that's how the season plays out, where it's a win or go home game. And are you going to pick the Steelers if the Ravens are playing well enough to be in that position at that point? I certainly probably won't be. But that's what they're facing right now, I fear.
Yeah, no, I agree, Shane. It's hard to think that they are going to cruise comfortably, and especially when you look at the second half of their schedule. And we can dissect that here in a little bit. Keep those chats coming, guys. We want to hear them.
Absolutely.
To add insult to injury for the Cincinnati Bengals, Joe Flacco was now he's dealing with an AC joint sprain in his throwing shoulder, which is like an old man type injury.
Certainly is.
Matt Stafford, and it's not what you want to be dealing with when you're a 40-year-old quarterback. And just to answer the question before you guys even throw it out there, can it get worse for the Bengals? Absolutely it can, because Flacco is at least respectable. I mean, you can't lose to the Jets, but at least a respectable quarterback.
He scored 38 points. Are you really going to, not saying that?
Yeah, it's not on him. It's the crappy defense.
The defense.
But Jake Browning is so bad. In 2025, he's played in 4 games, making 3 starts. He threw 8 interceptions. He has a passer rating over 70 in one of those games, and it's just a 76 passer rating. Like, he is the worst quarterback in 6.1 yards an attempt, the worst quarterback in the league this year if he has to play. So the Bengals are going to, any chance that they have glimmer of hope to stay in this division, they will be out of it very quickly if Joe Flacco cannot play against the Bears this week. I mean, they're in just a terrible state. They're just a poorly run organization. But again, it's just another thing. Like, Steelers are finding ways to luck out even when they don't deserve it. Like, they're not deserving of being in the situation that they're in right now.
Certainly not. And, like, again, if you're a Bengals fan, like, even as a Steelers fan, like, I'm kind of sorry at this point, because, like, how are you going to deal with Jake Browning again coming back in if that's what it ends up being? Like, do you have to make another quarterback trade? Like, do you have to call Atlanta? Not that Kirk Cousins looked anything, respectable against the Dolphins, but that whole team just was bad. So I don't know if it's all on him. But, like, do you have to make another move if this AC joint, like, just doesn't heal properly and he can't play? Because Jake Browning's not getting you to the point where Joe Burrow even has to come back. Like, we're very, very clearly, it's not in the cards for him. So if he can't go, then you're already 3-5. Like, maybe it doesn't matter anyway, but you had a shot here. Like, if you beat the Jets, you had the same amount of wins as the Steelers currently. You have one more loss, obviously, because you haven't had your bye, but, like, that could have been your ticket to getting back in this division, and now it might be over already.
Yeah, now it absolutely could. And let's call it what it is, Shane. He's got arthritis. Dude is 40. He's got arthritis.
He's also had to throw the ball like 100
tens
times.
of thousands of times.
Like, just this
practice
season, he's thrown like hundreds of times.
Let's move on and talk about the Kyle Duggar trade here for a bit. Shane, when I saw this drop, it was in a church meeting and somebody told me about it. And so I quickly looked at my phone and I'm like, oh no. Because right away, my mind's going to, I know this contract, and this contract sucks. That's a bad contract. So I'm like, did the Steelers really just do that to the league's most expensive defense? You added let me get these contract details again here so I don't misquote this here. 4 years, $58 million deal that he signed during the 2024 offseason for he's an average safety. He's an average safety who's seen his opportunities get cut in half this year under Mike Vrabel's regime with the New England Patriots. Now, I think that he's been good. A couple of years back, he had a really good season. I think it was 2023, maybe.
Yeah.
But since then, I think he's kind of gone downhill. He's not been the same football player. He doesn't take the ball away. We're talking about a safety that doesn't have an interception in going on his 3rd season straight now, or at least 2 years without a pick. It seems like much more of the same. Like, didn't you already get this player, like Jabril Peppers? I don't know. I've got mixed feelings about it, but when I heard the report, and this is the caveat here, that Ian Rappaport said the Patriots are taking on a portion of that money, and they're wiping out the final 2 years of his deal, which, by the way, would have been $17 million in 2026 and $18 million in 2027. An egregious number. You can't justify paying an average safety that much money. And so very thankful for that. Now you're still swapping a 6th rounder for a 7th rounder next year. I can live with that.
Whatever,
for a half year rental. It's whatever.
Yeah.
Just we talked about last week, Shayne, don't sell the farm for a naive chance to think that you're going to bounce back in this, and especially a non-needle moving player, in my opinion, in Kyle Dugger. Overall, I'm okay with the trade though, thanks to the contract details.
Yeah, that's the key thing. I think if they took on the contract, then even though you didn't really give up anything of note to acquire him, it would just been another example of like, why are you funneling more money into a defense that's not good as it is, right? And like taking on more contract when you're going to need space to add to this team next offseason, right? But yeah, the contract being changed and pretty much wiped off, like you said, past this year. They could even theoretically, like if he has a solid half season with this team, if they either want to bring him back, that would be fine. Or if another team sees what he does and gives him a decent deal, maybe you could get a late round comp pick for him potentially. So like there's the trade capital doesn't really matter. But this is just another example of like, okay, yeah, would I like to have Kyle Dugger if Deshaun Elliott's not playing? Sure, it's fine to have Kyle Dugger on your team. This doesn't change anything though, Tommy. The problem is that the defense is old and slow and bad. And Kyle Dugger doesn't make you any faster, younger, or better. I'm sorry, he doesn't really. It's better than having Chuck Clark out there, to be fair, which is what would have happened if that's not the case, if they didn't make this trade. But am I supposed to be impressed by this in any way? Like, is this supposed to make me feel differently about this team? No. And I don't really think that's the point of this move, but it's still like, great. You added another basically linebacker who's sort of a safety. Good for him. Hopefully he's okay. Like, that's all I really have to say about it.
I mean, Shayne, it's kind of comical how old this defense is at this point, and I can't put it all on Dugger. Dugger's 29.6, by the way, and so
hey, he's a young guy there basically then, right?
Yeah, you don't want old players in the secondary. There's a correlation between the secondaries that do well, because when you lose a step and you don't have recovery speed, it's so hard in the back end. We saw that. The perfect example was against the Packers. You played all of your old guys, and they couldn't even catch up to Tucker Kraft in that game. Like they were really struggling.
What a mismatch on that one.
Going back to that contract for a second, Shayne, and why I was initially so disgruntled about it is Dugger was a top 10 highest paid safety in the NFL, despite being a part-time player. And you could not justify that contract. No. So like you said, if he performs well the rest of the way, you want to give him tack on another year or whatever. He should be cheap because most safeties, quite frankly, should be cheap. You shouldn't overpay for safeties in today's quick passing game. NFL, their impact has been delegated. We saw that with Minka the past few years. So I'm okay with it overall. This defense is stinking old. We'll talk about that in just a second here. I think that's next up on the dock. Let's talk about the updated analytics going into week 9. And I'm going to pull some of these up for you here, Shayne. I'll kind of fire off some random ones here, but all of them are intriguing because the Steelers just seem to make the wrong decisions with all of these. Let's start with the rookies here. The Steelers are not playing much. And in fact, their snaps have gone down in each of the past 3 weeks. Let me start with that. Some of the young defenders in their snap counts over the past 3 weeks. So week 6, 7, and 8, I'm going to say these in consecutive order. Nick Herbig went from 50 to 29 to 24. Make that make sense. We'll talk more about Herbig here in a second. Derek Harmon went from 48 to 43 to 39. Not a huge drop there.
Yeah.
Jack Sawyer, 24 to 11 to 2.
Brandon Which that Eccles, makes sense, but
it makes more sense. But friggin' rotate your edge rushers.
Well, there's for sure. But like, because the other guys are healthy, like that makes sense. But also, like, come on, like, give them a break. Yeah.
Brandon Eccles, 28 to 27 to 9, and Peyton Wilson, 54 to 33, and then back up to 43. So that's of the young defenders on this team, minus Keanu Benton, who's kind of been staying level.
Yeah.
All the other younger defenders on this team have seen their snap counts decrease over the past 3 weeks. It doesn't make sense because when you watch this team on the L22, they are slow. And how do you get faster? You start by playing the younger guys that got more juice left in their legs. And so Let me start with that. Now, kicking that over to True Media in their stats on the rookie splash play leaders in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Guess who's number one? Very small sample, and I'll lead with that. Jack Sawyer, 12.2% splash play rate. So 12.2% of the time he's on the field, he's making a splash play. Number 5 out of all defensive rookies in the NFL this year, Derek Harmon, 9.9%. These guys are combining to see the field for pretty limited snap usage. Sawyer in particular. Let's go on to the next analytic here. Most of these don't relate to each other. I'm just kind of we'll throw them all out there and then we'll discuss them.
It leads to a point. There's a point to be made here with it.
Wide receivers. First of all, it's comical that the Steelers only have one qualifying wide receiver because Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson have literally not played enough snaps to qualify for this.
With Austin,
the raw PFF separation score, DK Metcalf is dead last in the NFL among all qualifying receivers. That includes guys like Keon Coleman and Xavier Hutchinson. Like, he's behind these guys. I know that Metcalf isn't known for his separation, and so we'll start with that. But at the same time, it's like, all right, how much is the offense playing a factor into this? Going on to up to the next analytic here. This is a positive one, but it's also negative because of the Steelers' baffling decision with this.
Mm-hmm.
Pass rush win rate.
Yeah.
Nick Herbig is in a category of his own. This is ESPN analytics, by the way.
Yes, ESPN,
Nick Herbig in a category of his own at the top of the league. 34% pass rush win rate. That's better than any year TJ Watt or Myles Garrett has ever had, according to ESPN analytics. Now, obviously, Garrett and Watt and Parsons, those guys draw far more attention. So that's a reason why they're not winning at as high of a clip. But Nick Herbig is in a category of his own at the top of the list, and then it drops way down after that. And yet they refuse to play this guy. In fact, his snaps, like I said, have dropped the last 3 weeks on the Steelers defense. And then I got 2 more actually. Another analytic. The Steelers have the second oldest defense in the NFL. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Next to only the Washington Commanders. And if you watch them this year, they are stinking slow, just like Pittsburgh is.
Yeah.
Not a good stat. It's not a stat that you want to rank high for. Ironically, youngest defense in the league, the Green Bay Packers at 25.5, 25.7. The Steelers' average age of their defense this year, 28.2. Their secondary age, Shayne, is 30 years old. 30 years old. If you average the age of the top 11 players in their secondary this season, it's even older if you take out Corey Trice, who's not played yet this year. You can assume that he'll come back at some point. And then the other stat I had here, Shayne, is I got one more. Mike Tomlin in Steelers teams that should go for it on 4th down. How often teams go for it when they should? Mike Tomlin, 0 times. Dead last in the NFL. Worse than the Tennessee Titans at 5 times. At least the Titans knew 5 times when you should go for it. Mike Tomlin, should you go for it? 0 times he's gone for it when he should have gone for it on 4th down. Those are analytics that we're throwing out there to make the point that this team doesn't know what they're doing in a lot of ways, Shayne.
Yeah, the overarching point of all of those things, and again, you can take those metrics and leave them depending on who you are, what you value, all that good stuff. But at the end of the day, especially the age of the defense in the secondary. People have said this for a long time. The NFL is a young man's game for a lot of reasons, but especially so in the defensive secondary because the types of athletes that you deal with at the wide receiver position, at the tight end position, at the running back position in the NFL nowadays, corners are already at a disadvantage because of the position that they play. It is one of the hardest positions in all sports to play because you are trying to guard a world-class athletes without knowing truly what they're doing most of the time to you, right? Like the best corners can sometimes, make the right decision and they can kind of see what guys are doing to them and they can react accordingly. But for the most part, you're playing from behind essentially against some of the best athletes in the world. You can't do that at 34 years old if you're Darius Slay. You can't do that most of the time if you're Jalen Ramsey at 30 years old or whatever. Like, it's just too hard to ask guys of that age to do those things consistently. And then the only guy you do have at corner that's playing consistently in terms of like snap counts, who does have the the young age and the athleticism to do it, is one of the least consistent corners in the league, Joey Porter Jr. So you're not even getting that on the opposite side of either of these guys. It just makes it so easy for offenses, to target these guys because they know that if they do quick hitting routes, if they are able to get a good release off the line, there's going to be open space to throw into. There just is. They can't keep up with these guys the way that they used to. And it's not their fault. It's the Steelers' fault for putting them in a position to have to do this because they don't have anyone else. That's who they are banking on right now. And that's my biggest takeaway, especially from those stats, is the way that they're trying to play defense just doesn't work in the NFL.
Yeah, Shayne, the other takeaway that I would have from that is it's not just one category. It's not like, okay, you're screwing over Nick Herbig with his snap count. It's Nick Herbig is so clearly good. You're not playing him.
Yes.
It's wide receiver separation. It's your defensive age. It's everything that this team is doing wrong. And there are adjustments that the Steelers could make. There are personnel adjustments you can make. You can play your younger guys. We just saw Roman Wilson shine in limited action again. And who knows, maybe he'll go back to playing a smaller role because that's what this team seems to do. So, but there are some in-house options that you could go with to correct some of these things. There's some coaching changes that you can make. They haven't been made. And so that's what's so egregious. I feel like at the midway point of the season, we are not seeing good analytics from the Steelers because of what they've done to themselves. Shayne, let's move on and talk about the Steelers against the Green Bay Packers here. We won't harp on it too long because you guys all watched that game. I mean, I don't blame you if you didn't watch the game until the end because it got so pitiful down the stretch there. But let's go by unit here. Start with the offense. Aaron Rodgers against his former team had a chance to become the 5th quarterback in the history of the NFL to beat all 32 teams, joining elite company. He would have Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Brett Favre, and Drew Brees. Doesn't get much better than that. Wasn't able to do it. That's going to be his last shot ever. I would venture a guess, at least. Maybe he comes back next year. Maybe somehow the Steelers and Packers, that schedule or the record lines up, and I doubt it. It's his last chance. So I feel bad for him because, boy, was he livid all game long. He was fuming, and you could tell it just from some of Tomlin's decisions, like punting the ball away on 4th and short, and like he wanted to be aggressive. He wanted to have that big game. It's just such a defensive letdown too. Not that Rodgers was perfect. I thought it was a really average game overall, kind of padded his stats a little bit there at the end of the game when it was kind of unspectacular before that, but hardly can blame the quarterback when, again, it's the defense, man. The defense stinks so bad.
Yeah, he was playing from behind when he wasn't even behind yet. Like, that's what it felt like, especially after that first couple drives of the second half where, like, the Packers were just dominating them from start to finish. And it just felt like, especially, and we'll talk about the run game in a second, but they abandoned the run game. And that put a lot more pressure on Aaron Rodgers when, again, like, they were up by 2 scores going into halftime. Like, the game didn't really get out of hand truly until late in the game. Like, they could have played more of a balanced offense. They could have tried to possess the football and just give the defense a breather and give them time to try to think of something to do. But they kind of just asked Aaron to go out there and be Superman, and that's just not who he is anymore. And I think he probably had a lot of PTSD flashbacks to playing for the Green Bay Packers for a few years where their defense couldn't stop anybody. And he did have to be an MVP candidate to make this team like a true contender. And unfortunately, it's just not who he is anymore. And he's not going to be that guy as good as he still is at throwing the football. It's just too hard for him at this point to do that.
It is. The play extension's not there. Everything has to be operated in rhythm. Now, occasionally he does make a big play out of structure. He had to play early in the game. Thought it was a wonderful adjustment by Roman Wilson to not give up on the play, kind of turned back towards the sideline, made that 45-yard catch down the field. So just not the same level, obviously, and that's to be expected. He's pushing 42 years old. Let's move on and talk about the running backs here. And by the way, everyone in the chat right now, if you guys have any questions for us, we'll get to those in just a minute. If you want to start dropping your questions in the chat here for us. The running game, Shayne, was perfectly fine. I mean, they had no issues at all, but the Steelers had to abandon ship in the second half because you get down multiple scores, which is so bizarre because it all came so late in the game. 21 fourth quarter points by the Packers. But before that, I mean, they were rushing 18 carries, 93 yards. 5.2 yards a carry. That's Warren and Gainwell combined. Both pretty efficient overall. again, this running game has been working since the Minnesota game just before the bye week. The running game has not been the issue. I think the offensive line's been carving out holes like crazy. Darnell Washington, like having him on the field all the time has made a tremendous difference in just paving roads, but you can't overcome the defensive squandering again, because even with the good protection overall, the solid running still doesn't matter.
No, the run game, again, it's certainly not a problem for this team at this point, especially with the jumbo package that they've unlocked, which maybe they won't be able to do this week, depending on whether Siamalo plays, because they might have to have Spencer Anderson play guard. But that maybe they'll just do it with someone else. But I think with the run game the way that it is, the fact that they did abandon it the way that they did, again, they ran 3 times in the second half. And there wasn't many points where they were truly out of the game until really the end, when they were trying to just make that miracle comeback. For them to not lean on the run game a little bit more, and at least, again, you need to give the defense that is clearly over its head at this point a breather at least. Like, maybe it wouldn't have helped that much, but if you possess the football for a little bit, and like, even if you just get a field goal out of it or whatever, like, give them a chance to kind of regroup a little bit, because it felt like we just kept sending them out there to just get slaughtered by Jordan Love when he was on that 20 straight completions streak, which, again, never want Jordan Love to complete 20 straight passes on you. It's really not his thing. That hasn't been historically his play style, but they really should have tried to let this run game at least help them kind of stay in the game a little bit longer there.
I agree. I think that they abandoned it a little bit too early there. Let's talk about the wide receivers here and tight ends in this one, Shayne. DK Metcalf, 5 catches, 55 yards, and a touchdown on 7 targets. Another solid, respectable performance from him. He's only had like 1 huge breakout game, maybe 2 this season. But Roman Wilson's the guy I want to highlight here, because I really examined his all 22 film thoroughly these past several weeks. The guy is open. Yep. He's open a lot. And there were probably 4 or 5 other opportunities in his limited snaps. I think it was like 21 receiving snaps that he could have gotten the ball thrown his way again. Even the one catch that he did not make in his 5 targets, caught 4 for 74 yards and a touchdown. The one play that he did not come down with, we thought it was a free play because 2 Packers defenders jumped.
Oh, it definitely was a free play. It just wasn't called.
Oh, huge missed up. Yeah,
Aaron knows those ones. He's not the officials. Honestly, if Aaron Rodgers tells me that they jumped off, I might just be like, yeah, probably they did.
Like, he knows better. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it truly was. But even on that play, like, first of all, credit to the defender who made a really good job coming back to the ball and raking the hands down. But the ball placement on that one, if it was a little bit further inside, I think he catches every target in this game. Same with the one in the end zone. Like, that should never had to come down to that question. There was so much space out in front of Wilson. And again, I don't want to be hard on Rodgers here, but you could have thrown it 8 to 10 yards further out in front of him. Wilson had to slow down, come back to the ball. It was an underthrown pass in the middle of the field. Should have been led closer to the right sideline. And we don't even talk about that as a questionable touchdown reception. Like, Wilson's been good. I've been really impressed with what I've seen so far. We'll talk about the trade deadline stuff, and maybe this is not the position that you even need to be targeting. Like, what did you make of the receiver play overall in this game, Shayne?
Again, I think Roman Wilson, if they just throw him the ball, it'd be fine. Like, I'm not saying that he's like a superstar right now or anything like that just needs to get the ball, but can he be a quality receiver 3, at least in terms of overall talent right now? Probably. He's shown enough flashes in limited time for me to think that he can be. Maybe he can be more than that at some point. But I think if you just use all the guys you have at receiver in the ways that they should be used, I think you don't necessarily need to add a receiver for this offense to be good enough, because that's not the problem. Clearly the problem is the defense. And I don't know if there's a receiver out there that's available for trade that would make this offense good enough for the defense to not matter anymore, right? Like, that's ultimately what the problem is even if it would technically help, are you going to score 30 points a game all of a sudden? I don't think so.
Yeah, no, I agree, Shayne. And we'll talk about that in a little bit here too. There's only so many targets to go around for those wide receivers in Arthur Smith's offense. Pat Freiermuth, I want to mention, after a career game last week, 5 catches and 6 targets for 112 yards and 2 touchdowns, plummeted back down to earth. 4 targets in this game for 13 yards. Should have sold high. Probably.
Hey, at least they did keep him involved still. I guess. I don't know.
Trying to get him, trying to force feed him Jonnu Smith, same way, 17 yards on 3 targets. I mean, it seems like you got to get the Jonnu screen quota in every game. Like it's clockwork, like, oh, there he is. You got to get there's your 3 screen passes that were allotted you per game. The tight end, the combination of the two outside of that last week's game for Frymouth have been very inefficient overall in the receiving game this year, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I wanted to pull this up real quick. It won't take me long, but so right now, Kenneth Gainwell and Jonnu Smith, I want to talk about those two in particular in the passing game. They have 45 catches this year combined, which feels like so many. But
I know where this is going.
45 receptions. And they have total right now, between the two of them, I'm going to make sure I get this number right, is 218 receiving yards on 45 catches.
That's really low.
I mean, I don't know what you're like. I don't even know what I'm supposed to say about
those are running plays at best. I mean, and that's
you're
the
basically
target,
you're about as efficient throwing to them as you are running the ball with Jalen Warren, which, by the way, not good. I hate to say that. Like, that Jalen Warren's doing just fine as a runner, but you should not be catching the ball and getting as many yards as a runner is in the ground game. Like, that's just not good enough, right? They're averaging like a combined about just under 5 yards per reception right now, something like that. And you just can't do that. Like Kenneth Gainwell in particular, he has 84 yards on 23 receptions. Stop throwing this man the football, at least in the way you're doing it. What are you doing? So I just needed to throw that out there.
It's rough. I mean, watching these screen passes, and then you go back to like last year, Jonnu Smith was extremely efficient on the Dolphins. Mike McDaniel's offense, because they run him with slants and they get him the ball in room after the catch.
Correct,
the Steelers are getting him screen passes and expecting him to be a wide receiver, making the first 2 guys miss. Like, it's just weird, some of the stuff that they do, unfortunately. Let's talk about the offensive line, Shayne. The biggest topic overall, Broderick Jones against Micah Parsons. Now, obviously, people coming at me on Twitter. It's not Broderick Jones against Parsons. It's Broderick Jones plus Siamalu plus Darnell Washington. Yeah. I know that. It's everybody that plays against Parsons or Garrett or even Watt. They draw attention. Yeah. So, no, it was not a lot of true one-on-ones. But give Broderick his flowers for this game. I think that he did respectable overall. Now, in live time, I wasn't like super focused in on him or anything that way. Couple quick pressures allowed in this game. But you go back and watch the All-22. I thought he did a respectable job overall. There were a few times where he buried Parsons. He's just the bigger, stronger guy. When Parsons doesn't get the head of steam, he put him in the dirt a few times. And that was encouraging for me to see on a couple of the rare one-on-one reps that he did have in this game. Obviously, the collection of bodies did a good job delegating Parsons' impact overall. Parsons was credited with 5 pressures in this game. 3 I would certainly count as low quality, came late in the rep, running way around the arc, or Rodgers rolls out, and then he gets there's nobody covering him at that point, rolls out and gets the pressure there. But for what it's worth, and again, take it for a grain of salt, because Parsons is the way better player. It's why he drew so much attention in this game. Broderick was not alone. He had lots of help. But Broderick did have an 80.5 pass block grade going against Parsons and Rashawn Gary much of the game with help. Ian Parsons had a 58 pass rush grade. And so as good of a job collectively as a team, Broderick included, that you could expect to go against one of the top 2 defensive players in the NFL.
Yeah, I think the offensive line was not a problem really at all in this game in general, like especially compared to like other problems they had, which we're about to get to those in a second. But in general, the worst plays that they had was actually when Parsons was mugged up on like the center and between the guard and the center, and Rodgers, like, for some reason, and they alluded to it on the broadcast multiple times, it's like he stopped knowing how to play football when they did that. It was very weird. Like, he kind of just ran into a sack at one point. He got the ball out so quickly in those situations that the play never had a chance to go anywhere. Like, it was very weird. Like, I understand that look is tough to deal with, and he's won a lot of times in those situations, but you got to at least try to let the play develop in those situations. Like, I don't really blame the offensive line that much for that.
Yeah, and we got a comment here from Talking Trash with Steelers Gang. The offensive line is the best part of the team right now. Ain't that crazy? In some ways it is. I mean, the offensive line is finally coming alive, and everybody else is going downhill, it seems. I mean, I thought Troy Fautanu did a really good job as a run
Yep.
blocker in this game. He had a pretty solid performance overall. And for what it's worth, Fautanu graded out as the best player on the entire offense this week with an 80 overall grade. Again, there's still so much work to be done, but I think the offensive line is at least trending in the right direction. They had a really tough task against a super talented Packers defensive front. And I thought that they rose to the challenge. I wish that the defense could have done the same. So let's talk about the defense right now, Shayne. Start with the defensive line. Start with the pass rush. Whew. The collection of TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith has been just completely taken out of the game the past few weeks. The Packers knew the blueprint. They watched what happened. They watched what the Bengals did to the Steelers the week prior. Oh, 3-step drop, get the ball out. Don't let Watt wreak havoc on the game. They didn't combine to do anything. You're talking like 115 snaps in this game with Watt and Highsmith. They just weren't effective at all. And by the way, Herbig had 3 pressures in this game. Watt and Highsmith, despite playing triple, combined for 4 pressures. And so it's just like, again, can we get Herbig involved a little bit more? It's frustrating snap distribution there.
I think the most frustrating part is the reason why that those two haven't been as effective recently isn't just because, especially with Watt, that he just isn't quite the same player that he used to be. And we know that at this point, like, even though he's played better in some of the games recently, like, again, just not the same guy. And I think that that's to be expected, and it's unfortunate considering the contract and all that good stuff, but it is still to be expected. What's frustrating is they know what the problem is. It's that they can't get there fast enough because offenses know that they can just, again, like you said, do a 3-step drop, quickly get the ball out because they know that there's going to be someone open, right? The secondary can't cover anyone for any amount of time. So they don't even have to really game plan that much for the pass rush because they're just going to mitigate it for the most part. And the couple times they did have like a true chance to get there, they still couldn't. Like, they play a ton of snaps, and Watt should not be playing anywhere near the amount of snaps he plays right now because you want to try to keep him fresh enough to actually be valuable down the stretch of the season. And they just don't really have a chance to be effective. Herbig at least is so explosive that he can sometimes still cause havoc in those short pass situations and those quick pass situations. But like you said, they're not playing him nearly as much as either of these two, which I don't know what else that guy has to do on the field for the coaching staff to go, hey, you know what? He's our best pass rusher. We should probably keep him out there most of the time if we can. Like, especially if teams are going to do this to us every week.
And Shayne, Nick Herbig is still 23 years old. He was one of the youngest players to be drafted over the past decade, 23 years old in his 3rd NFL season. And by the way, we talk about coaching mishaps. TJ Watt is 31 years old. He's on pace to play a career high snaps, 990 snaps this year. Why is he playing more in his old age than when he did in his prime? Make it make sense. You finally have the depth. There were years where Steelers had no depth at all, and yet TJ Watt is going to play more snaps now than he did back then. Remember, like, the Malik Reed year? It was so terrible. Anytime Watt had to leave the field, there was nobody. You might as well play with 10 guys out there. They have depth now. Nick Herbig has been awesome, and yet they refuse to play. Like, it's so frustrating. So, interior defensive line, I thought they did a pretty good job at defending the run, at least. Hey, guess what, Shayne? We defend the run. All of our problems go away. No, they do not, because pass game was not good. It was not good. I want to kind of get to our other topics here, so we'll brush past this pretty quick. Linebackers. Oh, Patrick Queen. There's no more infuriating linebacker in the NFL. Holcomb did not play good in this game. It's not a good game from him, but I thought Peyton Wilson was good. For one of the few bright spots on defense. I went up and cut up a lot of his good plays, and there were a lot in this game. The rest of the defense let him down, though.
Yeah, Peyton Wilson firmly back on the upward trajectory, I'm hoping, and that's certainly what it looked like in this game. What can we really say about Patrick Queen at this point? Like, there's been a lot of talk about him and both like on Twitter and social media in general, and even in our own chats and stuff like that. And I understand that, like, he's capable of being a solid run defender at times. Like, he really is. He is such a liability in space that you can't play him all the snaps like they expect him to play. it's too much. Like, he's not good enough to play all the snaps at the linebacker position. He should be a first and second down run defending player who's a blitzer as well. He really should be like Vince Williams, basically. Like that's
that would be
like
a better role
juiced, like a super juiced up Vince, like, and that could be a fun player, but he's the every down linebacker for this team. And there's no way you can expect to be successful in the pass against the pass if teams know they can just pepper this guy with targets in the middle of the field. It's impossible.
Yeah, if you don't got it, you don't got it. It's not an athletic thing. It's not an age thing.
He's 6 years into this, I think now.
Yeah,
like
he's that's not his forte at all. And he's been, these last two games are one of the worst samples I've seen of Patrick Queen in his career so far. Can't continue on like that. If it were up to me, and if you were capable of doing it, switch out your full-time linebacker and make it Peyton Wilson, who is in his second season coming off one of the best games of his career. Maybe he had a 92.7 grade in this game, even with the rest of the defense looking bad around him. He was all over the field. He was really aggressive, taking good angles in the run game. Get him more involved. Get Queen off the field. You just can't do it when he's the green dot guy. That's the problem, is you can only hand the green dot over if you take Queen off the field, and the Steelers clearly aren't willing to do that. So we'll see where things go from there. The secondary, Shayne, the worst part of the defense by far is the secondary. It is bad. We talk about how old Slay is. I don't want to, if you listen to any of our other shows, I always bring it up. He's 2 years older than the next oldest cornerback to play a snap in the NFL this year.
Yeah,
and by the way, before the sun sets on the 2025 season, he will turn 35 years old. He's that old, and it shows on film. Juan Thornhill, terrible. Was there a more comical, like, what in the world? Jumping like 10 yards ahead and thinking that you're going to be able to make up. Let's look like you hit the triangle button at the wrong time. Like, what are you doing there? Just take a few steps back and you might have been able to make a play. There's a reason why he's allowed like 130 pass rating with the Browns the last 2 years. You got to get him off the field. Maybe that's the plan now with Duggar here, but it was just a really rough performance overall. And to see Eccles only get, what did I say, 9 snaps in this game, it's like, you got to get some youth and some speed on the field here. You can't go on like this anymore.
The fact that we're talking about Brandon Eccles is like a guy who absolutely has to play more. It's like,
and he wasn't even good on the Jets last year. I know.
It's like he's fine. Like, he's been fine.
Yeah.
The Darius Slay thing, I said this on the if you guys watch the post game reaction that we do every week, Josh Yorish and for some reason,
Mark Powell,
Mark Powell, they do the post game reaction show. I hopped on at the end, just was feeling a lot of feelings and none of them good, and decided I'll hop on, why not? And I said this, and I think that it is true to some degree potentially. The Steelers got a couple good years out of 30-plus-year-old Joe Hayden and decided that was the thing that they need to do. And I'm trying to figure out what exactly the reason for that is, because that is just not normally how that goes. Like, you normally get the 30 as a corner. Like, Darrelle Revis might be the best corner ever, especially cover corner. He was done at 30 years old.
Oh, yeah.
It just, sometimes that happens to guys. And to be fair, Darius Slay played good last year. It wasn't like he was already fully 100% washed. And then, they signed. But
Shayne, he's in the 99th percentile in terms of how long corners can last.
Literally, yeah.
He was playing on borrowed time, though, and we knew he was a ticking time bomb in terms of when is he going to completely fall off? The answer is now. It's done. Yeah. It is done. Slay, by the way, on the season, I don't have that stat pulled up in front of me, but
it's bad.
Really bad. He's allowed a pass rating of over 130 at the midway point of the season. Yeah. You want to pick on somebody, pick on him, the former 6-time Pro Bowler, all-pro cornerback. The Steelers did not learn their lesson with Patrick Peterson 2 years ago. They did not learn their lesson.
That's the sad part. They did it once, and then they were like, "Oh no, another time it'll be fine."
And again, I know that Omar Khan he's the front office guy. He's supposed to be responsible for those. But it's so hard not to see Mike Tomlin's fingerprints all over this, because the guys that he loves. He talks about them. And he was infatuated with Peterson. Go back a little before that, he was infatuated with Miles Jack. He tends to go after these ex-first rounders, ex-Pro Bowlers, ex-higher draft picks, whatever it is. And he goes and gets those guys when they're already past their prime. And he did it.
Yeah.
He traded for William Jackson, who was
Oh,
injured and
never
sucked.
even played for the team. Yeah.
And never even played. Like, this is the kind of stuff that Mike Tomlin, you can see his greedy handprints all over this.
He's like,
And
I like that guy in
stand
the draft, and he was good. We should bring him. It's like, no,
Yeah.
Mike, he was good like 2 years ago. It was the last time he was good. Like,
Yeah.
He's like, no, like I was right about him. It's like that. I know that's great. He
It's
can't
either
play
that,
anymore.
Shane, or somebody has a good game against them, like Mason Cole. Oh, the Vikings blocked
game.
really well in
That's
this
right.
game that they beat us up on. So I'm going to go out and get Mason Cole and start him for 2 years.
I wonder if Kenneth Gainwell ever had a good game against us. I'm wondering because maybe that's why.
Well, they got stomped on by the Eagles.
That's right, a couple years ago.
Year, so.
Well, especially I think like the Kenny Pickett rookie year. I think they blew him.
Yeah,
they got blown out too. But
Probably
whatever. Yeah,
it's rough. Anyway, let's. Special teams. I mean, if you didn't have Chris Boswell, if you,
that's it.
He keeps the Steelers in football games when they don't deserve to be in them, and just kick it. Just he's so automatic. 50 yards is the new like 30 anymore for Chris Boswell. So, best kicker in Steelers history by a long mile. So, let's skip past that, Shane. Let's go to our next topic here. Before we do that, if you are a fan of the Pittsburgh Steelers and would like to support the Steel Curtain podcast, please consider subscribing to the Steel Curtain podcast on YouTube. We appreciate your support. We have 3 live shows collectively per week on this channel. Please check them out. You won't be disappointed. If you like what you're listening to right now, tell your friends about it. Hit that like button. Leave us a comment down below. Help us with the algorithm get seen here as well. We love bringing you this content. We'd love to bring you even more. So we are really appreciative of your support. Shane, let's talk about the NFL trade deadline that is just days away now. Tuesday, November. What is that? November 4th. Yeah, that's 4th. Going to be at 4 p.m. The clock will set on that. We saw the Steelers do something stupid last year at the deadline and trade for Mike Williams, which I wrote like 6 articles leading up to that point saying, please don't trade for Mike Williams because he's not good anymore. He did have to his credit, the one big touchdown catch against the Commanders.
One play.
That was the last we heard of that guy. So will they do something again this year? That's the big question. Mike Tomlin made it so obvious what the Steelers intend to do. And he was asked about that in his Tuesday presser. And he was basically like, we are buyers at the deadline. Surprise, surprise. The Steelers want to buy with Mike Tomlin pushing 2 decades of coaching and not giving a hoot in the world about what happens next year. And the Steelers, to their credit, they've got a lot of draft capital to work with. I don't want them to throw it away, though, at a chance to win now if you're not good enough to win now. Can you go and get any needle movers? That is the question. I would not consider Kyle Duggar one of those. I think it's maybe an upgrade over what they've had. Not probably an upgrade over Deshaun Elliott, but you couldn't help that he got injured.
Yeah.
What can they do, Shane? I think that's the biggest question we're looking at here. Steelers are buyers, but what can they do and what should they do at the deadline?
Well, I think this comment from Mr. Tomlin might be the best thing they can do is Steelers need to petition the NFL to change field goals to 7 points starting this week.
If they do that, Steelers like the best team in the league.
Yeah, I think we might be good.
You don't have to worry about your defense anymore.
Yeah, we can buy whatever you want. I think if they are going to be buyers, which is so ridiculous, by the way. Like, we know that. We know it's ridiculous for this team to be buying anything except for tickets to Cancun for after the season at this point. But realistically, if they want to buy, what can you actually go out and get that's going to make a difference? Because, yeah, there's receivers out there that might help this offense a little bit. If the defense continues to be old, slow, and bad, it doesn't matter what receiver you get, right? So that's the problem is, like, what I love at Jacoby Myers in this offense to give them, like, a true, like, slot outside hybrid that wins contested catches, that can be a reliable target for Aaron Rodgers on third downs, that doesn't include Jonas Smith getting 3 yards reception and all that. So, yeah, that'd be great. Will he be a good fit? If the defense is going to be this bad, it won't matter. It just simply won't. Like, it'll be marginally different than what it is right now. And defensively, I hate to break it to everybody, if you have a good, young, fast corner, he's not getting traded. So you're not getting that guy. Like, the closest you might be able to get is like an Alontae Taylor from the Saints or something like that, right? But I don't think he's getting traded. And even if he is, like, is he that good that it's going to make a huge difference? I don't know. What are you supposed to do?
Shane, you can see why so many corners are drafted so early, because you get them on the cheap 4-year contract. Realistically, in their first contract, sometimes in their second, that's the peak of their NFL career.
Yeah.
Once you lose a step, you got to be real head smart, and you got to be able to take the ball away, and you got to have all kinds of things to make up for it. But unfortunately, the Steelers are really old. They have the oldest secondary in the entire NFL. Like I said, at 30 years old on average for their top 10 players, if you don't count Corey Trice in that mix there. Look at Shayne. I'm going to run through their defensive statistics right now, and you please explain to me why we talking about trading for a wide receiver, if anything, when we're looking at this defense. Right now, we are almost at the midway point of the season. For some teams, this kind of is the midway point of the season. Steelers have already had their bye, so a little bit further behind, but the Steelers are 30th in yards allowed per game, 386. The Dallas Cowboys and Cincinnati Bengals are the only teams worse, Shayne. They're 22nd in points per game allowed, 25 a game. 24th in yards per play, 5.6. 24th in third down percentage allowed, 41.8%. Can't get teams off the field on third down. 31st in first downs per game allowed, 23 per game, 23.1 per game. That's a lot of first downs per game. 24th in yards per pass attempt, 7.0. 17th in yards per rush attempt. The only almost average statistic from their defense this year. 22nd in defensive DVOA and 25th in defensive EPA per play. Collectively, we're looking at the 27th, 28th best defense in the NFL, and they haven't even played that many good teams so far.
That's the part that really is frustrating is you look at the schedule, like, yes, like Seattle is a wagon offensively that we didn't
Look
expect.
At the quarterbacks they played, Shayne.
Yeah, like Sam Darnold, Drake May has been really good, obviously, but even then we beat them because they turned the ball over 5 times. So it doesn't even really matter that they played poorly against him because they still got the win. The only quarterback that we've truly beaten in the sense that we truly dominated them is a 3rd-round quarterback from the Cleveland Browns who's 5'10".
In his second ever NFL game.
Yeah, in his second. That's the only quarterback you can say we soundly stopped and beat is Dylan Gabriel. And I hate to break it to Dylan Gabriel and the Browns and everyone else. He's not good, unfortunately. And he probably wasn't going to be good enough to be the starting quarterback. So, that's the only guy.
Shayne, his pass from the end zone last week, it was hilarious. I mean, it's almost like a movie bad. There was nobody around, and he just ditched the ball, and that ball couldn't have got to the sideline any slower than what he did and get the intentional grounding there. But the quarterbacks this team has played, you let Justin Fields have it literally a career day, the best game of his career against the Steelers in week 1. You played Carson Wentz, you played Dylan Gabriel. I mean, by the way, not only was it his second game ever, Shayne, he was coming from London, making his way back to Pittsburgh to play that game.
Yeah.
You're traveling across the world it has been a disaster so far for this defense. And every single statistic shows that they are not a good defense, despite what their $163.1 million salary cap allotment right here shows. They are $30 million more expensive than the next most expensive defense in 2025. There's just no excuse. And again, eventually you make all these moves. It is a personnel issue in terms of you got way too freaking old on this side of the football. But also, I mean, you got to look at Mike Tomlin again. It starts at the top and say, you allowed this team to get into this state. You're supposed to be a defensive-minded head coach. This is not good. Why is this happening?
Yeah, we should definitely talk about what they should do as well, because again, we know what they're going to do. They're going to try to add somebody. Maybe it's something minor like Duggar. Maybe they do make a big swing for a receiver or something. The reality is what they should do is nothing, and especially not buy. If they are going to do anything, they should be selling stuff that isn't going to be important to the future of this football team. That's what a smart GM and a smart organization would be doing right now, is saying, okay, we're clearly not good enough on defense. There's not enough guys that are out there that we can add to this defense via trade that's going to make a big enough difference. We have a 41-year-old going on 42-year-old quarterback who's probably done after this year, and we need assets to move this team in the future. Sell the farm as much as you can. Now, there's not much that you could truly sell, I don't think. That would make a ton of sense. I do think as good as he's able to be at times, I think you could look to move Alex Highsmith to make way for Herbig to be the full-time starter. opposite of TJ because he's going to be here for a while, obviously with that new contract. Pat Freiermuth, even like Jonnu Smith himself, if you just pick one of those tight ends, might be time to move on from one of them. Whatever it may be, you need to do something to kind of give yourself a chance next year and have some more money to play with and more assets. But we know they're not going to do that. They're going to buy to some extent. And for me, I just kind of hope it's not enough that it really affects their ability to do stuff next year.
Yeah, Shayne, I think you and I would both agree that we would sell at the deadline because we're realists. And that's the thing. We do this full time. We understand the state of this team. We watch other football. Like I've watched every other football game that's been played this year. And when you watch those games and you compare them to the performance the Steelers are putting up, specifically on the defensive side of the ball, they're not in the same category as the top 12, 14 teams at the top of the league. And it's really hard to believe that even with the AFC being as wide open as it is this year, that they have a realistic chance. Now, you mentioned those names. And again, to me, we're already in my mind. Freiermuth, Highsmith, those are the guys that would hold trade value, I believe, in my mind. And you'd be able to also kind of get out of those contracts and truly reset next year if they wanted to do that. That's if they want to do that. They do not. They want to go all in. They are buyers. Now, I understand it from the perspective that your quarterback turns 42 in December. You already have the second oldest defense in the NFL, one of the oldest rosters because of the players that you went out specifically and got in 2025. So the opportunity to win is right now. So if they're operating from that mindset, Shayne, and it's like they are to get somebody, let's play along with this for a minute. What would you do? Because again, the other thing we have to point out is even though they haven't been good, there's a very realistic chance they can win this division still. They're 4-3. And in their mind, what Mike Tomlin would say is we just got to cash our ticket into the tournament. Anything can happen from there. I don't buy into that. I think that there are tier rankings difference between Steelers and some of the other teams, like the one that they're going to play this week, by the way. I don't buy into that, but theoretically, if the Steelers are to go out and try to make something happen to fix the defense now, and by the way, it should be the defense. The offense, don't touch it. Don't leave it alone. There's not enough targets to go around at the wide receiver 2 position. I like what Roman Wilson's been giving you. He's open all the time. If you elect to use him, he's open. Don't touch the offense. It's the defense that needs the most help. So how do you fix that? Like you said, you go out and trade for a corner. There aren't any corners to trade for. Nobody has enough.
Who wants to give up young, good corners?
No.
Nobody wants to do that.
Every team needs 4 or 5 or even 6 good corners because they get injured, and you play nickel and dime. You need as many corners as you can. You need more corners than you do receivers. Nobody's trading for that, and nobody's going to give those away. And there's not young guys on the market that you can go out and get either. And that's the dilemma we're at right now. Would I like to replace Patrick Queen? Shayne, probably at this point, you're not going to do that. He's your green dot guy, and you've paid for him in free agency. So other than those two things, maybe get like another run stopping defensive tackle, but there's not a lot you can do. If they don't turn it around, they're not going to turn it around.
Well, that's the issue is like, if you did want to buy, and like, I could understand them wanting to do that if they do think that there's any chance that they could win this division and compete for a playoff win. The pieces that you would need to attempt to do that don't exist on the trade market. Like they simply don't. Like, who are you going to trade for at corner that's going to make a difference? I can't think of anybody off the top of my head. Roger McCreary might have been their best buy low candidate, and he's on the Rams right now because they also want to do that type of thing. Like, he might have been their best bet, and he's just okay, right? Like, it's not even that he's this like super talented guy. He's just an okay corner. He'd be better than Slay, but so would almost anyone else. So it doesn't really matter. Like, your best bet at this point is that you get Corey Trice back, and he is able to play actual games consecutively and not die, and that's maybe your best bet at this point.
Shayne, and you're not kidding. Like, honest to goodness, if Trice, who is made of glass, can play on and stay on the field, if he can do that, which is as big as question as anything else this team has going for them, considering his injury history. Watching what we've watched through the first 8 weeks of the season, Darius Slay, even Joey Porter, it's not a youth thing for him. He's long, he's athletic enough. Inconsistent, the footwork, the mechanics, the lack of ball skills. I don't care. Corey Trice might be the best corner in this team if he can stay healthy, because the bar is so low right now. The bar is so low that and again, I'm saying this to say that we've seen a few games of Corey Trice in his career.
We're literally basing this off of just a couple of times he's played enough for it to matter. But it's like that's what we're working with right now.
It just shows you how bad the defense is overall. And I mean, we can't rule this out as being like their number one pick in the draft next year too.
Maybe.
With 12 draft picks right now, they might spend 4 of them on cornerbacks at this rate.
They probably should, or at least secondary players, like especially if they don't get a quarterback they like that's available where they're picking. Like I would go all in on a youth movement on defense and hope that it works itself out. So
you know what they're gonna do though, Shayne? These guys will be gone, like Slay and these guys will be gone, Juan Thornhill, and they'll go out and sign other guys that are pushing 30 or in their 30s.
I was gonna say who I'm trying to think of who that would be. Like I'm surprised. Like Rasul Douglas would be funny. He's always out there. Someone like that. I don't know. I'm sure there'll be someone. But
so that's our thoughts on what Steelers should do at the trade deadline. We think that they're going to be buyers because Mike Tomlin said so. If anything, maybe they'll stand pat. We know they're not going to sell though, even though that would be Shayne and I's decision. What do you guys think? Drop it in the chat below. Shayne, let's get to our Steelers versus Colts preview before we log off of today's show. The biggest storylines to watch this week 9. The point differential. My Lanta is ever huge. The Steelers now, it's like they're starting the season today because their point differential is 0.
Zip.
Plus 0. They're not in the negative. So that's positive, I guess.
Good, I guess. Yeah.
The Colts, however, are leading the league by a mile at plus 116. Now, part of this has to do with their schedule.
Yeah.
They've had a fairly easy schedule so far. They played the Rams. That's the one loss they have, and kind of A.D. Mitchell threw the ball to the back of the end zone. And maybe they're 8-0 right now if that doesn't happen.
Maybe.
But plus 116, that's exactly what you would expect a true contender to do to bad opponents, is beat them 40-6 like they had a few weeks ago. Like they are winning games and winning them comfortably. Yeah. There is no close second to them. They're the number 1 team in DVOA in the NFL, which is a pretty good indicator. DVOA, point differential, those are 2 terrific indicators of who's a good team in the NFL.
Typically.
Now, there's still a lot of football to be played, but at this point, it's hard to argue that they're not one of the best teams in the league, Shayne.
Yeah, the Colts have done it in a very interesting way because obviously the Daniel Jones of it all, where he is playing, I would say, very good football. I still think that in general he's more so a tool being used by Shayne Steichen to kind of run the offense more so than he is truly elevating things in general. But this just shows you how good of a coach that Steichen is, because we've seen when he has capable quarterback play and guys who can just hit the guys they're supposed to, play on time, which, to be fair, like Jones hasn't always done that, so there is some level of him playing much better. But when that happens, this offense goes and really, really goes. And Jonathan Taylor obviously is having like an MVP caliber season, as much as that's not possible for running backs anymore in the NFL. He's just getting as close to that as you can get in the modern NFL. Like everything is just clicking on all cylinders for this team, and it feels like it's really only kind of started.
Yeah, it really has. And you mentioned Shayne Steichen, so let's talk about him next. In Pittsburgh's last 3 games playing a Shayne Steichen offense, which is 2 with the Colts as the head coach and 1 with the Eagles as the offense coordinator. In those last 3 contests, the Steelers are 0-3.
Yep.
And they've been outscored. I want to get the stat right. I have it here somewhere, but
it's bad.
I believe the number is they've been outscored 96-50 in those 3 games.
Yeah.
Allowing over 30 points a game. Like it's been really rough. It's been really rough against Shayne Steichen offenses. And when he runs that RPO like he's done in the past, Pittsburgh is just brain dead. They have no clue how to defend it. I don't know if it's going to get better, Shayne, because the Colts have only gotten better since the last 2 times they played them. They've gotten a better quarterback, which who would have guessed? The resurgence of Daniel Jones, it's so similar to what we saw from Sam Darnold with the Vikings last year. I'm really impressed with him. I mean, they've been pass protecting. They've been paving roads and run rush. Yeah, it's a run blocking. Like they've been pretty solid overall. Now, maybe where Steelers can get them is in a shootout type of game because they can be susceptible on defense, but offensively, they're as good as the Shayne Steichen offenses we've seen over the years.
Yeah, this is the best offense in the NFL comfortably right now in terms of the operation and how they're actually playing. And you could argue like there's definitely offenses that are more talented overall and are
Sure,
probably
sure.
going to have a higher ceiling against like great teams. But if you're just talking about like who is playing offense at the highest level right now, comfortably the Colts. Like it seems like everything they do just works. Tyler Warren has been phenomenal as a rookie. That makes me happy because he was like my third or fourth ranked player in this draft. So that definitely makes me look good. Great. Awesome. Love that. But again, like he's great. Michael Pittman, he made a catch last week that I'm still trying to figure out exactly how he did it. To be like, I'm sure you saw that too, where he had the one-handed catch where I'm like, I thought the ball was incomplete. And then I'm like, oh, he still has it. That's a touchdown. He's making plays. Alec Pierce is a perfect deep threat. Josh Downs is not like you just go down the list and like everyone is doing well for this team. And this feels like such a this isn't even a matchup. This could be a slaughter legitimately. Like this is not looking good for this team.
It could be, Shayne, the last time they played the Colts, it was against Joe Flacco, who came off the bench to put up 27 points in a win over the Steelers. Like that's how well coached the Shayne Steichen offense really is. Now let's go talk about the biggest matchups here for a second. The biggest one is really obvious. You got to stop Jonathan Taylor. I mean, he is
good luck.
The best running back in the NFL pretty easily this year. Huge plays, explosive plays on the pace for 20 some rushing touchdowns this year, multiple games of 3+ rushing touchdowns. Like you've got to find a way to slow him down. And considering the struggles that Pittsburgh has had in recent weeks, not necessarily against the Packers, but you go back before that. I mean, the Bengals couldn't run a lick with Chase Brown until they played the Steelers. Yeah. And then he exploded for 9.8 yards a carry. Like if Chase Brown was able to do that with you with the Bengals offensive line, what are the Colts capable of if you don't bring your A game and if you can't stop the run?
I mean, this could be a record-breaking day if things really go their way. Like this is what we're talking about at this point. And I hate to say that for the Steelers because this is obviously a team that has prided itself on defense for really most of its history, obviously. Yeah. This is truly like one of those opportunities that if the Colts take advantage of it the way that I think they could, we could see some record-breaking numbers specifically against the Steelers, like for the Steelers history in terms of points, yards, all like that's truly what we're facing right now. If they play to the level that they've played at this year against us. And you look at we'll just say the last 4 games for Jonathan Taylor. Okay. He has in the last 4 games, 9 rushing touchdowns, 10 touchdowns total. And he's averaging well over, I think it's like 7 or 8 yards a carry, especially after last week's performance against the Tennessee Titans. Like
absolutely wild.
And again, as great as he is, there's a reason why he's doing this year. And it's because that offensive line is playing about as well as you can. And it's truly just decimating opposing defenses because the passing game is finally working so well that teams can't just key in on Jonathan Taylor in the ground game, right? And you see what happens when they're able to actually dictate to defenses what they want to do.
Yeah, Quentin Nelson is playing like the best guard in football again after kind of a quieter
good, but not maybe great.
Yeah, I mean, he's the number 1 graded guard in football right now, so he could give the Steelers defensive line fits. I mean, their whole unit can. Their unit's been spectacular overall. In the passing game, Shayne, it's not necessarily if there's just one guy you have to game plan for. No. It's just kind of they've been really efficient overall, no matter who they're throwing to, and that's kind of been their MO this year in the passing game. But you nailed it. Just like this is as obvious as a game plan as it was 2 weeks ago against the Bengals. Stop Jamar Chase. Stop him under any circumstances. Let T. Higgins get his 100 yards. Stop Jamar Chase. They allowed him to get 23 targets in that game, 16 receptions, 160 yards and touchdown. If the same thing happens and you're not prepared to, which I do think they're going to sell out to stop the run. I think that they're going to make it a point.
Oh, yeah.
They don't want to get embarrassed in run defense like they did 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
If they can't stop Jonathan Taylor, the game is over. You're going to have no chance to control the tempo. Yep. You're not going to be able to play your style of football. So that is the big one right there. Any other matchups, Shayne, you want to get to before we make our predictions?
Tyler Warren versus everyone.
Oh yeah, we got to talk about Tyler Warren.
Yeah, as good as Tucker Kraft is and has been this year, I'm more worried about Tyler Warren because he's a rookie doing what he's doing, and this is an offense that is great as LaFleur's as a play caller. I wonder if Steichen has even more up his sleeve at this point as a play caller, like from what he's shown this year. And Tyler Warren, especially if they sell it against the run and they get him on like one of those like chip and then run him out to the flat, he might break records for yards after catch against this team. Like it might get really ugly, really fast. Like,
oh yeah,
I don't know, man.
It's Shayne. What's funny about that is after giving up 7 catches for 143 yards and a touchdown to Tucker Kraft, Patrick Queen was asked about stopping the tight ends to the media, to which he said, and I'm paraphrasing, that starts this week. Starting this week, we're shutting the tight end position down. You probably should have waited at least another week to say that, because you play Tyler Warren this week, who, honest to goodness, might already be the best tight end in football. And I didn't think I'd be saying that with how good Tucker Kraft is playing, how good Brock Bowers was as a rookie last year.
Yeah.
Like, he might be the best tight end in football already in terms of versatility, what he can do as a blocker, receiver, lining up at any position. He's going to be tough to stop. And you can bet that he's going to get his way against the Steelers defense.
Again, like this is a guy that has 492 yards and 3 touchdowns already as a rookie. Like he's on 1,000 yards in 17 games, at least 1,000-yard pace, going to get close to maybe double-digit touchdowns as a rookie tight end. And like as much as Brock Bowers was phenomenal last year, we all know that he's really kind of a slot receiver, right? Like we know, like he's really mostly a slot receiver. Tyler Warren is a legitimate tight end, like size-wise, skill set-wise. They use him all over the field. They line him up at quarterback, at running back, at fullback. There's name the position he's able to play. He's probably played it this year for them. Yep. It was the same thing at Penn State last year. Like they're basically like, well, it worked there. Let's see if it works here. And so far, the answer to that is very much yes.
Yeah, it turns out a 100 plus catch 1,000-yard tight end. It's actually really good in the NFL too. Who would have guessed that? But yeah, I mean, you gotta account for him because that could get really, really ugly really fast, especially with the coverage lapses we've seen from this defense, particularly at the tight end position. You go back a couple weeks before that, the only thing Cleveland had going for them was their tight ends making plays over the middle of the field. And that's the only thing they could do offensively. What's comical, Shayne, is Tyler Warren, through not even halfway through his rookie season, has like a full season's worth of Steelers wide receiver 2 production.
He does, unfortunately.
All right, Shayne, let's get to our game predictions before we close out today's show. Steelers versus Colts, 1 o'clock this week. Get a break from that primetime action. Maybe they're liking it at this point, and after getting embarrassed in primetime a couple times in a row there. The Colts have owned this matchup. I mean, quite frankly, they've owned this matchup the last couple of times here. Pittsburgh is going to look to bounce back and try to repair their reputation. They do get a home game here, so they have that going for them. This is a huge test.
Yeah.
And if Pittsburgh can pass the test, like if they somehow find a way to beat the Colts by 2 scores and hold them to under 20 points, I mean, we'll be talking about them again and saying, all right, maybe there's something here. But if it looks like much of the same that we've seen the past 2 weeks against the Bengals and the Packers, I mean, this team, that would make 3 losses in a row, and they're just completely unserious. This is a huge test for them to turn it around. Are they going to do it, Shayne? Go ahead and give us your score prediction for this week.
Unfortunately, if you asked me this a couple weeks ago and we were looking out towards the schedule, and I would say this is the type of game that this team, despite every bit of evidence pointing to the opposite, they beat this team somehow, right? And it probably would be in a stupid fashion or some weird thing would happen or whatever. But at this point, I don't think this team has it in them to do that type of stuff anymore. I just don't think they're good enough on defense. So I'm gonna say I think they lose, and I'm gonna honestly, like, and maybe this is me trying to like work the magic the other way and trying to like hedge my bets. I'm gonna say they lose 35-17. I think they get absolutely manhandled, obliterated, and shown that they are not a good football team, and that this is hopefully, maybe, we know it won't be, hopefully some sort of a wake up call in one direction or the other, right? But I think that they get absolutely obliterated.
Well, Shayne, willpower is only going to get you so far when your defense is old, slow, and bad. And
exactly.
It's not going to get any better this week when you face the NFL's #1 offense.
Yeah.
Shayne Steichen, who's just as toyed with you the last 3 games that he's been the offensive play caller. It's in those games, the Steelers have allowed over 30 points a game. I don't see it getting any better when the Steelers have like 27th, 28th best defense. in the NFL collectively.
Yeah.
I've got Pittsburgh losing this game 21-30. So just outside of it's a 2-score game for Pittsburgh. I don't even think that they can keep it within 1 score. If it goes how I'm predicting here, hope that I'm wrong. We'll see what this team does. But I mean, and then Shayne, after this game, I want to note it's an important game in terms of where do the Steelers go from here, because then we will legitimately be like, you can start counting the hours down until the NFL trade deadline after Sunday. That gives you less than 2 full days from the time the game closes until the trade deadline. What will they do from there? Are they going to drop to 4-4? What do you do at that point? Our team's going to creep back up on you. Are you going to advance to 5-3 and then say, okay, now we're just a piece or 2 away? Like, we'll see how this game goes. I'm not very optimistic, unfortunately, based on what we've seen the past few weeks. Doesn't get too much easier after that. You've got the LA Chargers after this game, and then you still have games upcoming against the Lions, against the Bills, a couple games against the Ravens with Lamar Jackson back. Like, it's going to be a tough schedule. So we'll see what they can do. Huge test for Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers this week. What do you guys think? Let us know your predictions. Drop one in the comments below. We go live on this show every single Wednesday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern time. Also check out Josh Yoris' show. He goes live on Mondays at 1:30 p.m. Josh and Mark Powell go live in the post-game show immediately after the Steelers game. So check that out for live reactions too. Make sure you follow our written content on stillcurtain.com. We are always keeping that up to date, fresh over there. You can follow Shayne on X at Shayne Kubas. You can follow me on X at Tommy Jaggi. You can download the Still Curtain podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Also check us out on YouTube or ask Alexa to play the Still Curtain podcast. And thanks again for listening to the Still Curtain podcast.